key to understanding the mystery of the missing kite begins by knowing that Gladys Kite and each of the young ladies who appeared on the now classic album cover of Songs from the Blue Ballroom by Tito Remote and his Cuban swing band featuring Melinda Bourgeoisie were the females of pairs of duploids. Duploids being the entities from a different planet, where each entity had a female component and a male component. Instead of being just one biological type, they came in pairs, a female and a male. For a while, experts and scholars thought, and in fact believed, that duploids existed only on the planet Confused. But in recent times, it was discovered and then verified that most of the inhabitants of the planet Earth were duploids, although curiously, few, if any of them, actually knew they were duploids. What you have are a bunch of females, males, and of course a few non-binaries running around thinking they were completely solo. In other words, the females did not realize they had a male, and the male of the duploid never realized there was a female. This led to a rather profound amount of confusion, which was all the more confusing when, unbeknown to them, the male and female of a duploid pair met each other, fell in love, and soon thereafter began producing progeny. This, of course, was allowed according to the official rules, but it often had unusual consequences, as happened with the Daltons. On planet Earth, the nearest thing to a duploid pair would be fraternal twins, but actually the entire planet was filled with duploids, except nobody recognized it, including all the duploids themselves. The biggest clue on planet Earth occurs in the story of the Tower of Babel, which in the case of many such stories, certain individuals with odd agendas incorrectly translated the original historical document, and in this case, suggested God introduced confusion to the inhabitants of the planet Earth by causing them to speak different languages, with something similar also occurring when the so-called experts and scholars wrote that Jesus, in a quite miraculous way, was able to walk on water, which of course was true, but since in those days biology, chemistry, mathematics, and physics had not yet been discovered, the actual historical document stated unequivocally that this ability to walk on water occurred during the winter months when it rained and water froze into ice. Earth inhabitants in the Northeast, Canada, Scandinavia, Siberia, and of course the Antarctic, and the home of Santa Claus, the Arctic, have known about being able to walk on water for centuries, if not millennia. Yet another clue occurred when God, in a quite temperamental fit of rage, decided to flood the earth and kill almost everything on it, except, of course, fish. God's instruction to the faithful was to build a giant ship called an ark, and to populate it with two of every species, the key being two. What actually happened was that through the miracle of conscious thought, God directed duploids to arrive at the ark, noting that it's not just humans who are duploids, but also animals, plants, and little tiny things. Camels are duploids, fuzzy bunnies are duploids, rutabagas and carrots are duploids, as are humans. We interrupt this broadcast for a lesson on the real rules of physics presented by Professor Alphonse Twiddle of the Institute of Absurd Physics and Modern Dance.
What we are knowing is that Einstein's equations accurately describe what happens in relativistic time. But it's important to understand that things actually happen at a faster pace. Time normally is constrained by and to the speed of light, but there are events which occur much faster, and this is described as being instantaneous. The best way to understand space-time is from the perspective of everything happening instantly, rather than being constrained to occur no faster than the speed of light. relativistic clock of space-time runs at the speed of light, but predicting the future requires one to use the non-relativistic instantaneous clock of spooky action at a distance. What are the 13 truths? Since truth number 9 prevents conscious perception of the other truths, nobody knows.
Thank you, Professor Twiddle, for sharing those elucidating and enlightening thoughts. Coffee and donut holes will be served in the lobby, after which time the group will begin line dancing to the fabulous music of Tito Remote and his Cuban swing band, featuring Melinda Bourgeoisie. As Fergus Wadagai, the older brother of Bartok Wadagai, said regarding the Daltons at a recent meeting of the local Moose Lodge, does your dog do the duck? All you need is a little bit of luck to get your dog to do the duck. It did not matter that this made little sense or even no sense, because everyone knew about the Daltons and their schemes, most of which were designed to spread confusion and thereby to make it possible to engage in various types of trickery and deception, such as, for example, announcing press conferences but never actually appearing at them. In this way, the Daltons were able to have huge victories in political elections, after which they refused to be inaugurated or thrown into office, something that had the curious effect of leaving many leadership and representative positions unfilled. This was like applying for a job and accepting the resulting job offer but never showing up for work. This is what the Daltons did with everything. And it was no surprise they were not so beloved as they imagined themselves to be. Yet, the most trouble aspect of the Daltons was their development of the insidious weapon called the Zephyr Bomb, which had the ability to devastate large cities in milliseconds in a way similar to the atomic bomb, but not by nuclear fission. Instead, the Zephyr Bomb literally and physically manipulated space-time by causing the traditional speed-of-light clock to slow down and then just as rapidly to speed up, thereby disrupting every known law of physics as well as a few of the unknown laws. Historians now know the Daltons are the progeny of diploid pairs, and this is one of the reasons Gladys, Kite, and the other young ladies were abducted by the Daltons, who planned to use them for breeding purposes. And thus ends the 19th chapter of Extreme Gravity, the mystery of the missing kite. Stay tuned for the next chapter. Visitors